Alright, YouTube. This will probably be my last YouTube video tonight, last monologue tonight for sure, but I was reading an article on Slate, and yes, I know Slate is incredibly biased towards the left. They're like, no, I wasn't say they're like the paragon of leftist news, but nothing is worse in writing than Huffington Post than in television is MSNBC. Huffington Post, though, is its own kind of bias. I should really do a video on some of their stories sometimes because it is truly insane. They give bias and partiality a new type of definition. I think they even rivaled Nazi Germany in the 30s, and I'm not joking either. But the article on Slate, the article in question, was denoting that Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats should do whatever they can to make sure that Judge Neil Gorsuch never gets on the Supreme Court. And I question this motive. I question the reasonings for it. Why they'd want to neglect someone like Judge Gorsuch when there's so many obstacles, there's such a bad consequence that could happen if they do this. First and foremost, I alluded to this in a different video that Neil Gorsuch is a very humble person. Neil Gorsuch follows the rule of law, and I know that's why a lot of regressives and leftists in general don't like him. This notion that a judge can be impartial and base his rulings on precedent and pre-existing law as opposed to personal feelings and empathy of others is just really foreign to them. I think that the significance of having someone on the bench like Neil Gorsuch, this will really, Democrats, progressives, people like Obama, they really want a fundamental change in America. They want a fundamental change. And to extrapolate that down into policy, they need to get federal judges on their side, judges that can legislate from the bench. And this is the antithesis of Neil Gorsuch's character. For instance, Harry Reid used a nuclear option because Obama wanted to stack the federal courts with progressive judges. So when Harry Reid used a nuclear option, that means that all cabinet posts and all elected officials nominated and confirmed through Congress could be confirmed through a majority vote of 51 votes, not the 60 which requires now. So Obama already initially began his fundamental change, fundamental transformation of America by using Senate Democrats and opting out to use a nuclear option. Now they fear someone like Neil Gorsuch. Like I said, he is the antithesis of the leftist ideology. The leftist ideology being we want to fundamentally transform America, and we will do so under the guise that we are doing to help the little guy. Just because Judge Gorsuch doesn't align with the dynamic of the leftist ideology, I think this scares them. And this is why people like the Slate writer, the author, did this, saying do all you can to stop Neil Gorsuch. But what they are forgetting, and what is the fundamental flaw in their argument here, is that no matter what, Neil Gorsuch will be on the Supreme Court. 100% guaranteed. Trump said it, Mitch McConnell said it. It's going to happen no matter what. Now we have to look at some other factors, some external factors that have a direct impact on the Supreme Court. Ruth Ginsburg is 84 years old. She will probably be dead soon. Justice Kennedy wants to retire soon. Justin Clarence Thomas wants to retire. Justice Breyer is 78. We have 4 more Supreme Court justices that are old enough to retire or old enough to die. And if the regressive left forces Mitch McConnell to go nuclear, that means all subsequent Supreme Court justices could easily be elected by a majority vote. They could put, for the sake of argument, they perceive Steve Bannon as an alt-right lunatic. Let's say Steve Bannon was a judge. They could elect Steve Bannon to be the Supreme Court, and the leftists couldn't do anything about it. Now, the variance between someone like Steve Bannon and someone like Neil Gorsuch should be pretty evident and palpable to everyone. Now, why aren't they considering that in their argument? It doesn't make sense. It's almost like they want the Republicans to go nuclear. They want Mitch McConnell to go nuclear because they are under the illusion that they are going to get their seats back in 2018. They think that they are going to do well in the midterms and hopefully eradicate the Republican Party, completely destroy them. But I don't see this happening. The way things are going now, despite the flop of the healthcare bill, As of now, I predict that Republicans will still gain more seats in Congress in the midterms. They will maintain the majority. First and foremost, the primary reason for that is because Democrats have 23 Senate seats up, whereas I think Republicans have 10 then. So right there alone, if you base the election off of attrition, and then the attrition definitely favors Republicans. I just don't see any benefit to this. I don't see any benefit to filibustering Neil Gorsuch because all you're doing is you're going to piss off the Republicans. You're going to piss off the American people. A majority of the American people voted for Trump, not strictly because they like Trump's nationalistic and populistic movement. They were worried about the Supreme Court. They were worried about Hillary Clinton putting another progressive on the court, and they wanted someone like Trump, who, although they couldn't trust that he would put an originalist on the court, they had hope that he would, and they knew that Hillary never would. So even though Trump has ambiguous terms a lot of he says ambiguous by nature, they were hoping for the fact that they could trust Trump's decision and Trump's commitment to place someone on the Supreme Court who was in the mold of Antonin Scalia, or someone who was an originalist that could maintain the rule of law as a Supreme Court. And now, the Democrats and many on the left, they don't see that. What they see is an opportunity. They see an opportunity in the midterms that if they can just somehow filibuster Neil Gorsuch and make Trump or make Mitch McConnell use a nuclear option in 2018, when the Democrats wins their Senate back, wins their majority back, then some of those Supreme Court justices may be retiring or dying, and then the Democrats will be in the perfect spot to dictate who becomes Supreme Court justice. I think that is the concept they are alluding to. That is the climatic decision that they are trying to achieve. Or it could be just for show. It could be they're placating their base. There are theories and there are rumors that Chuck Schumer, even though he said he will vote no on Gorsuch, even though he said he will filibuster Gorsuch, there are theories that he is just doing this to placate to his base. That he has to keep face, that he will do whatever he can to degrade Donald Trump's presidency. Do whatever he can, even if he agrees with his decision. Even if Chuck Schumer agrees with Donald Trump's decision, he has to pretend he doesn't. He has to degrade Donald Trump in every little bit he can. So there is some theories now that Chuck Schumer may be doing that. That eventually he'll give in, though, and he'll say, you know what, guys, it could be worse. It could be worse. Let's give him this. The next time we'll fight like hell. Because I think if they do this backwards, if they filibuster now and Trump wins in 2020 and the Republicans increase their majority in 2018 in the midterms, I think they will really regret this. But if there's one thing we learned from regressive ideology over the years, is that they are not too bright when it comes to decision making. They derive their policies, they derive their ingenuity based on emotion instead of facts. And emotion never wins against facts. So they are so determined to fundamentally transform America, and they are so determined to completely destroy Trump's presidency. So much so that they're obscuring their own chances of trying to get a majority in Congress in the future and having the subsequent Supreme Court justice nominations. So it depends. It's all but Chuck Schumer now. He could keep on embellishing like he is and keep on saying that he's not going to vote for Gorsuch because Gorsuch is a globalist, is a big banker guy. I mean, some of these character assassinations they are directing towards Gorsuch are completely arbitrary and insane. They don't make sense. They don't make sense. There's no way that Chuck Schumer could be this obtuse, could be this slow, could be this retarded, if you will. I mean, no offense to people who are actually mentally retarded. I don't want to insult them, but sometimes it's questionable whether Chuck Schumer should actually be in Congress, let alone the Senate minority leader. Likewise, I have the same contempt and the same feelings regarding Nancy Pelosi. I mean, I think there's plenty of evidence around that demonstrates that these two are not in their right minds, and these two should have no type of authority at all that would represent these irrational and illogical ideologies. But yet people keep voting them in. And a lot of it deals with the media control. Like Jim Morrison said, whoever controls the media controls the mind. So media is essential to fostering these types of behaviors, these social justice warriors and these regressives who don't want to bridge the gap between left and right, who don't want to work together to build a new future, but instead who are upset that they lost. And instead of deducing why they lost, they are trying to blame their loss on the other team. They're trying to blame their losses on external factors instead of the most obvious reason that they elected a person who was a criminal, a person who lied on numerous occasions, a person whose husband was a rapist. So when they question the reason why they lost, they have to look inward. These external factors they are trying to use as an excuse, it doesn't help anyone, and it certainly doesn't help their own party. I guess if one were to argue against them, it would help the opposing party, but they don't see this. So this Slate article, it's ideas like this, people like this who have this type of thought process, who don't understand the game is chess, not checkers. By doing this, you will fundamentally destroy the regressive ideology. You will give Trump the ability to elect to the Supreme Court whoever he wants. Remember that. Remember that. Unless they are so convinced that Trump will lose in 2020, then another reason they could be doing is that they want him to use a nuclear option because they think that the other Supreme Court justices can hold out until 2020 until they get a Democrat in, and then those justices can retire, and then they can use a nuclear option to get in there who they want, some type of progressive. The problem with that is that to do that, they would have to have some type of collusion with the progressive Supreme Court justices now, and that is against the law. But then again, that never stops the Democrats before. I mean, I think Project Veritas showed us exactly how determined the regressive left is to break the law. So we got to think about that. Either way, this is a bad article by Slate for their party, for their platform, and for their ideology. I do not see this helping them at all. And if they do want to block a great person, a great judge like Neil Gorsuch, it really questions their main goal. And that is the end game, that they really think Trump is going to lose. And then they can use a nuclear option and get regressives stacked in the court, just like Obama and Harry Reid did in this first 4 years of presidency. And I'm done.